Today's topic was suggested by viewer Erin Collins, who wanted me to cover the best normal characters in fighting games. So what exactly is a normal guy or lady in a fighting game? Well, many characters fight you with some power that you would not see in reality, like making physical projectiles out of ki or something else, or using weapons from another dimension. These normal fighters just fight you with their body or ordinary everyday weapons, or swords if time appropriate. Since it's still a video game, the extent to how these attacks are performed will likely differ from how we would see them in real life. However, compared to the other abilities we normally see in fighting games, they're basically still regular people. For each choice, I'm going to take into consideration how normal each character is in their own game's universe to find the hardest working of the normal humans. So a character from a game that mostly consists of realistic, powerless human fighters, like say Virtua Fighter, likely will not be eligible looking at the other competition in the game. However, if you took a character from that game and put him in a game like Darkstalkers, then his normalcy would be more apparent. So do you understand everything? Well, hopefully, since people likely want this intro to finally end. Also, I'll only be doing one character per franchise. So here are my top 10 normal humans in fighting games. Number 10. Yuki in SNK Gals Fighters. Some may know her from story modes in King of Fighters or promotional artwork for the same franchise. However, while her boyfriend, protagonist Kyo Kusanagi, has pyrokinesis and is not your normal human, Yuki is just an average girl in high school. No hidden magical power or martial arts expertise, but she did leave the sidelines in SNK's handheld King of Fighters spin-off, SNK Gals Fighters. I briefly discussed this game in my fighting game couples video, but I'll go into a bit more detail here. This was a crossover fighting game with characters from various SNK fighting games all in chibi forms, and all ladies, except for the final boss, Miss X. Yuki was the only one on the roster who never actually fought prior to appearing in this game. Everyone else was a martial artist or swordswoman, but Yuki just fights you by basically flailing at you. Most of her attacks involve waving her limbs to swat her opponent away, and her weapon of choice is her school bag, which doubles as a shield. Either she is stronger than she thinks, or these trained fighters cannot deal with her unpredictability. Number 9. Ned the Janitor from Mace the Dark Age. Meet the mightiest warrior in all the land. Mace the Dark Age may have medieval assassins, genies, and guys from hell, but who needs those characters when we have Ned? He'll clean up the competition with his broom. I suspect that is just a normal broom, and Ned has trained to the peak levels of human strength from all of his years of cleaning. In reality, his character model is just swapped with the monk character Zhao Long, who fights with a staff and spiritual energy, which means Ned also uses that energy. But no, he's just a common man. That's actually dish soap, or Clorox, maybe. Don't worry about it. Number 8. Pyrrha, daughter of Sophidia, from Soul Calibur. In Soul Calibur, there are all types of supernatural characters, some with demonic blades and some with just a bit of magic. However, if you're without powers, you're still a sword fighter maximizing your human body. Pyrrha Alexandra is none of those before the activation of her Soul Edge powers. She is just a scared girl who is swinging a sword, seemingly without any technique or training. She's kind of like Yuki, except Yuki used a moderately heavy bag, while Pyrrha has a sword capable of impaling. For the B-roll in this segment, I only had footage I recorded a few years ago of me playing Pyrrha's playstyle on my created character of Bulma from Dragon Ball, so enjoy that. Bulma for the next DBZ fighting game? Anyway, Pyrrha is waving her sharp object around frantically against these other skilled sword fighters, since she thinks the whole world is out to kill her. Instead of a confident blocking stance like everyone else, she's taking cover, hoping her enemy aims for the shield. She also apologizes after certain attacks, and acts like every attack is something she does not want to do. Even Dompierre has a more prepared fighting plan. Pyrrha overall is one of the most normal people you can get with her lack of fighting skills, but she shows when you wield a lethal enough weapon, no one questions why you're fighting them. Or when you get malfested, but that's another story, and technically another character, yet still the same character. Number 7. Li Xiaolan from Tekken. Tekken is full of normal humans with extraordinary fighting abilities, and no powerless human fighter has more hurdles to climb than another, so it's hard to single out one normal person that stands out above the rest. What if we look at the somewhat abnormal fighters in the Mishima family? Let's see. Devil Gene, electricity like energy hands, a cool guy with fast kicks? I like this candidate. The adopted son Lee, stepbrother of Kazuya, is the only one of the family not to have some inner power that you cannot obtain from standard martial arts training in real life. Lee uses Jeet Kune Do, created by Bruce Lee, and the rest of his family uses Mishima-style karate in some manner, except for Lars if you want to count him. So not only did Lee have to deal with being the underdog of the family he lived with, but he was the only one that did not have some powers you'd find with the other Mishima fighters. If he was always in the company of characters like Lei Wulong or Michelle for his whole life, maybe he would not stand out as a normal guy that much. But since he constantly had to live with the likes of Heihachi growing up, I'll give him some extra credit. Plus he manages his money well, so he lives quite the excellent life after leaving for America. Win. Number 6. Little Mac in Super Smash Bros. Boxers in fighting games deserve some recognition. They go into a fight against anyone with just their fists, no matter how their opponent can fight from a distance. You have a problem? Punch it! However, while this could have easily been a tie between every boxer in a fighting game, I'll choose the boxer that deserves the most recognition in Little Mac, since he probably has the biggest power differential between him and other Smash Bros. Characters, with TJ Combo and Killer Instinct as a close second. At least TJ is a heavyweight boxer. Little Mac, as his name and role in the Punch-Out games suggests, is not as big and strong unless you add in his Giga Mac form available in Punch-Out Wii and his final Smash, but items are disabled for this video. This is just a guy from the Bronx, fighting fantasy warriors like someone in a robot suit who travels in space, or a living marshmallow from an alternate reality, or, well, he's from Japan and just uses martial arts and ki, so I guess that's fair enough. But even when Mac's opponent specializes in punching, Little Mac is still at a disadvantage since we all know the Falcon Punch is on fire and naturally epic. Even so, Mac does what not even Captain Falcon can normally do, and only win with his fists.
Way to go, Mac! You're the champ, baby! Little Mac!
Number 5. Beowulf from Skullgirls. Everyone in Skullgirls has some sort of reality-breaking tool, like a hair parasite, parasols that cry napalm, or a hat with fists. But you know what Beowulf's weapon of choice is? A chair. And a Gigan arm, but he can live without it. He's 287 pounds of folded steel and sex appeal. She shoots a gun, she throws scalpels, he throws a chair and wrestles you. He clearly has the most hurdles to go through when fighting. Yes, he has a gigantic arm as a weapon, but every other character is fighting with their special power, weapon, or enhancement in all of their attacks, while a majority of Beowulf's attacks are just good old-fashioned punches, kicks, and headbutts, with the occasional weapon or arm assist. Everyone else is fighting for a purpose throughout their story mode, but Beowulf is sort of that normal guy on the sideline who only beat his strongest opponent in the past unfairly, which Beowulf himself was unaware of. Now he is being tricked into fighting other characters, battling and beating them with sheer willpower. That being said, I cannot doubt this man since he knowingly challenges and takes down the Skullgirl with just a chair. He even loses access to the big arm in a cutscene, so I guess that's just the power of hype. Number 4. Striker from Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is a game that has fighters from many genres. but among the sorcery, ninjas, and robots are some citizens of Earth. Though even the normal humans in Mortal Kombat have some mysticism behind them, since the developers like to give nearly everyone a projectile. Generally, we see human characters that have some sort of energy or elemental-based attacks, like Johnny Cage's godlike green energy, or humans with advanced technology like Sonya's energy rings or Jax's metal arms. However, one man defies the odds and joins the fight with just a standard handgun, baton, and grenades. Curtis Stryker. His normalcy stands out in his premiere game, Mortal Kombat 3, where you see him in the mix of robots, mysterious nomads, and this guy, who turned out to be Sub-Zero. Right in the middle of these warriors is a guy with his hat on backwards, since it was the 90s and that style made you cool. He did not even use his gun as an attack until the game's update. In the game's story, while every other person had the proper powers, technology, or training for an interdimensional invasion, Stryker was just a bystander and trained officer who saw the city being invaded by monster guys and just decided, I've got a gun and a taser. I'm sure I can take down this lizard guy who has acidic spit. It worked, don't question it. Stryker was even good enough for Quan Chi's Netherrealm army after his death.
Surely you are pleased to see your friends.
So you're telling me Quan Chi needed him to fight the special forces of Earthrealm since a revenant on a horse that has a handgun can take down an army with military-grade weaponry? I guess because it's a hell handgun, it's more powerful or something. This was apparently more useful to Quan Chi than Jade. You're crushing my dreams, Quan Chi. Number 3. Zangief from Street Fighter, and Armika to an extent, but mostly Zangief, since people like decisiveness and for me not to break the limitation I set during the intro. For the humans in Street Fighter, when you can manifest energy into a physical form, you've transcended being a normal human. Of course, characters like Cammy and Zangief who do not use ki can still defy gravity with ease both horizontally and vertically respectively, so maybe my view on typical human behavior in video games is skewed. Anyway, Zangief beats out other Street Fighter humans since he found the secret of muscle power, or muscle spirit, whatever he wants to call it. He has trained his muscles to a point where they exude energy and can break swords. I'm sure he could fire energy out of them if he wanted to, and he sort of does with his Banishing Fist, Banishing Flat, Green Hand, once again, whatever you want to call it, which was added in later versions of Street Fighter 2. I guess that means he ascended normalcy at some point after the first release of Street Fighter 2. And that's where his apprentice comes in to take his stand of top normal guy or girl in Street Fighter. Miko follows in the steps of her master and does everything with her sheer strength and determination. In her latest appearance in Street Fighter V, she has to deal with guys that can create tornadoes, clouds of poison, and the classic ki-based projectile. And how does she fight them? With a butt and a dream. At this point, Zangief and Mika are the ultimate tag team that never gets to fight together outside of cutscenes due to game mechanics. And don't ask where Nadeshiko fits into all this. Oh, and in Mika's prologue story in Street Fighter V, Zangief is fighting Laura and suddenly a bear enters the ring. So Mika is all, wow, Master Zangief is so cool, oh my god, a bear! This is indeed an unforeseen circumstance! So Mika's motivation to prevent it from attacking Zangief is not because of bodily injury, but rather because the bear might ruin the match, in her words. And then they fight the bear and no one questions the scenario. That event was basically the deciding factor for putting them on this list. How many normal humans have to fight bears on a regular basis? Humans that are not in Tekken. Number 2. BB Hood from Darkstalkers. Supernatural creatures are what we expect from Darkstalkers. Vampires, werewolves, bee people, you name it. Even Donovan has some inner demons. But among these characters is a sweet, innocent girl dressed as Little Red Riding Hood. But she's packing heat! Nothing is normal in the Darkstalkers universe, but normal in a video game does not mean realistic, especially with Darkstalkers physics. Her basket has infinite ammo and items to attack enemies, making the most out of her lack of powers. In fact, she shows a machine gun is just as strong as whatever magic demons can produce in this universe. It also helps that this little girl has no fear and is a great actress. She's aware that Little Red Riding Hood is not quite the horror-themed legend that these other characters are based on. This can catch the Darkstalkers that she hunts off guard, since they will not take her seriously until she pulls out a missile or something. It's a funny subversion that one of the biggest killers and most evil characters in this universe is a powerless human with lots of aggressive motivation and weapons. Back when Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 tournaments were in the spotlight more, a friend of mine heard a conversation about Team Normal Guy. This consisted of Frank West, Mike Hagar, and either Spencer or Phoenix Wright if I remember correctly. Well, of that group, Phoenix Wright has magic lawyer powers, and Spencer has a technologically enhanced bionic arm, so they're beyond normal in this game. Mike Hagar, while being the people's champ, is a trained wrestler, so that leaves number 1, Frank West in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. Of course, many of you know him from his original game,
Dead Rising!
Frank West is the definition of a normal guy in a fighting game. He's just an average weight guy with no major muscle mass in his mid-30s throwing whatever he finds on the ground. He seemingly has no fighting experience, but he has covered wars, you know. He just uses techniques that any normal person could do in a situation where they need to brawl, yet he's fighting dudes with super strength, masters of technology, succubi, and basically pure fiery evil with his signature weapon being a camera. But it's okay since alcohol makes him stronger. Actually, he transcends pitiful human strength the same way he gets stronger in Dead Rising, by taking pictures. He can take down superheroes by just snapping pictures, which upgrade his weapons to become stronger and sharper. Tatsunoko vs. Capcom does not have the camera upgrade mechanic, but he still has his arsenal. The best thing about average citizen Frank West is everything he uses to fight. It's, well, normal. Shopping carts, golf clubs, baseball bats, you name it. Even his stronger weapons like chainsaws tied to poles and sledgehammers are still combinations of household tools. To be fair, he also does fight by hitting his opponents with zombies, but that's just because the zombies start attacking him when he's already fighting someone else. The undead just happen to become attacks as Frank West is multitasking by fighting them off. Oh, and he can do this. We can ignore that he has a Mega Buster so he can keep his normal guy card. Ultimately, Frank West outdoes the normalcy of his roster friend Hagar and the other entries on this list with his success in fighting despite lack of experience, and utility in converting random items into weapons. So what do you think? Agree? Disagree? There's a vast array of normal guys and ladies in fighting games, so let me know some of your favorites. Thank you all for watching, and thanks to the people that helped with the footage in this video. A.T. and Company at SoftwareAgentsCorp provided all the game footage minus MKX and Soul Calibur, and edited it down so it was easier for me to edit into this video. They do videos on gaming reviews, such as his video on Darkstalkers for some more fighting game goodness. Also thanks to Professor Oats for capturing my Soul Calibur footage years ago. If you want more Frank West, he has a Frank West combo video in UMVC3. And finally, thanks to NegetiveX for the MKX footage, who does not have a YouTube channel, but you can find him on my channel like in our video on licensed fighting games. Or for just me, how about my fighting game couples video I referenced earlier? Or you can just let the video end and enjoy the rest of your day. See you all in the next video.